We all know that mitochondria are the powerhouses of eukaryotic cells, but what happens when they don't function properly? Mitochondria are present in almost every single cell of our bodies, and their main function is to produce energy. Mitochondria are more present in cells that require more energy, such as the heart, the brain, and the muscles. And when the organelles aren't functioning properly, they make less and less energy, so the organs will not function properly. I'm going to explain what mitochondrial disease is, how common it is, the symptoms, and treatment options and causes as well. In order for our bodies to function properly, mitochondria in cells must function properly as well. First, I'm going to explain what exactly mitochondrial disease is. So, according to the United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation, it results in failures of the mitochondria. Mitochondria are responsible for more than 90% of the energy the body needs to sustain life and for organs to function properly. When the mitochondria fail, they create less and less energy, which can lead to cell injury and then eventually cell death. If multiple cells are dying because of mitochondrial disease, then the organs start to fail and then organ systems start to fail as well. The only cells in our bodies without mitochondria are red blood cells. Now I'm going to talk about how common mitochondrial disease is and what the causes are. According to Cleveland Clinic, 1 in 5,000 individuals is diagnosed with a mitochondrial disease, and each year 1,000 to 4,000 children have a mitochondrial disease as well. However, there are multiple symptoms, so it can be often misdiagnosed for another disorder or disease. Mitochondria are unique organelles, along with the nucleus and the chloroplast, that have their own DNA. So when mitochondrial DNA or nuclear DNA is mutated, that's when mitochondrial diseases can occur. There are several ways that mitochondrial disease can occur through mutated genes. The first is autosomal recessive inheritance, where the child receives one copy of the mutated gene from both parents, and then the children have a 25% chance of being affected by the disorder. There's also autosomal dominant inheritance, where the child receives one copy of the mutated gene from either parent, and they have a 50% chance of being affected by the disorder. If mitochondrial diseases are inherited by the mutations in the mitochondrial DNA exclusively from the mother, then there's a 100% chance that each child will have the disorder. And then there's also random mutation, where genes develop mutations on their own and it's not inherited by a parent. Environmental toxins can also be responsible for mitochondrial disease. Next, I'm going to discuss some of the symptoms of mitochondrial disease. They depend solely on what cells are being affected. So which cell's mitochondria is not functioning properly will depend on what the symptoms are. Patient symptoms can range from mild to severe. They can involve one or more organs, or they can occur at any age. Even patients within the same family who have the same mitochondrial disease could vary in their symptoms, their severity of their symptoms, and their age of onset. So it completely depends on the individual. Some of the symptoms include poor growth, muscle weakness, vision and hearing problems, learning disabilities such as autism, heart, liver, or kidney disease, gastrointestinal disorders, diabetes, increased risk of infection, neurological problems, movement disorders, thyroid problems, respiratory problems, lactic acidosis, or dementia. Mitochondrial diseases are usually worse when the defective mitochondria are in cells that require more energy, like the brain, muscles, and or nerves, because these cells use more energy than most. Lastly, I want to talk about some treatment options. Currently, there is no cure for mitochondrial diseases, there is just management. So some of the management tactics are nutritional management, exercise, and then amino acid or vitamin supplements. There is an ongoing experiment from the Oregon National Primate Research Center where they are testing on monkeys, and it has been successful so far. But the monkeys are born through IVF, where they transfer the mitochondrial DNA from a donor egg into the mother's egg, and then the eggs were fertilized and healthy monkeys were born, and they had no traces of the mitochondrial DNA from the mother's egg. So that has been successful so far. Finally, there are several notable cases of mitochondrial diseases. So Rocco Baldelli was a former professional baseball player. He was an outfielder for the Tampa Bay Rays. He eventually had to retire due to his mitochondrial disease because he had common soft tissue injuries, fatigue, and other ailments. And then Matty Stepanek was an American poet, and he was really young when he died, but he was diagnosed with mitochondrial myopathy, and his 3 older siblings also all died from mitochondrial myopathy. And they found out after that their mother had the mitochondrial mutated DNA, so that's why all of her children were affected by it. So mitochondrial diseases can present itself in many different ways. So always take proper care of yourself. Diet and exercise are important parts of managing mitochondrial disease. So even though there is no cure, you always just want to take care of yourself. Again, mitochondrial diseases can appear at any age, affecting one of the most important organelles in the cells of our bodies. But if you or anyone else you know has been diagnosed with mitochondrial disease, remember, the fight is not over. There are plenty of, I can't think of the word, discoveries in medical science all the time.